Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Star Citizen discussion videos. As I talked about in the last one, had a wee bit more free time on my hands, so I want to try and get back into the discussion videos because I really do enjoy talking about Star Citizen. And one of the things I feel like is talked about almost all the time in the Star Citizen community, and it's a point of hate from both sides of the argument, and it is, and it all boils down to one word: when. When is this shit coming out? When is the game going to be released? When is this going to be finished? When are we getting new gameplay loops? When is that happening? When is this happening? All that sort of stuff boils down to when and how long and all that sort of stuff. The main one: when is the game going to be finished? When are they going to be finished developing the game? I don't want them to ever be finished developing the game. Once they reach a point, they were like, yep, that's us, feature complete for our initial release, that's us at 1.0, that's the game out the door. I want them to keep releasing stuff. I don't want it just to go, yeah, that's it, finished. I want it to be like every other MMO there is on the market, that as long as it is financially viable for them to do so, they continue creating content for it. Like World of Warcraft is still around these days. Guild Wars, there's lots of MMOs out there. I don't ever want them to finish making the game. I want there to be an official release with 1.0. And when will that be? I would not be surprised if that's not for 10 years time yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was longer than 10 years time, for the amount of detail they're putting into this game is absolutely insane. And one of the things I've seen them talking about the other day is they were talking about the petals on what's the Crusader's city called? I can't remember, but the flying city in Crusader. It's got these not rose petals, but like it's got like these pink petals that fall from the tree, and you get them a lot in the area where I live. They look like the Japanese tree, but anyway, there's lots of them in the petals, and it was talking about how they dynamically fall and how they get caught in the wind, and it's all physicalized and made to actually work the way it would in real life. If a petal brushed up against a wall, it won't just go through it like it would in other games. It'd actually hit the wall, it'd get stuck on the wall when the wind's blowing into it. If the wind stopped, it'll slowly then start to fall. And I remember seeing the info runners talking about it, and if you just take and had a camera and just zoomed in on these petals and then just recorded, people are like, that's not gameplay footage, that's cinematic footage. And that is just an insignificant little detail. They're putting that level of detail into every single little corner, every nook and cranny of the game. So of course that's going to take an insane amount of time. A lot of people are saying like, oh, it's wasting time, it's this, that and the next thing. But I can see their point, that all this sort of stuff is wasting time. At the end of the day, it's not adding to any gameplay whatsoever. It can be faked, and 90% of the time you don't notice. But I feel like Star Citizen's evolved past that, at least for me personally, and I can understand why a lot of people are angry that it has evolved past that, because it's not what they signed up for. But to me, the reason this game is so special is because it has evolved past that, and it's going to get to the point where this is as detailed as real life, so to speak. It is almost nothing is faked. Even, like I was just saying, those little petals flying around, even that is all physicalized and acts the way you'd expect it to act in the real world. You'll be able to go, oh, I'm going to go try and do this, and it won't be a matter of, will the mechanics support you doing that? It'll be a matter, it'll work the way you sort of would imagine it in real life. Sort of like, I take this laser that's intended for, I don't know, cutting through this type of rock, and then I try and use it to cut into someone's bases, like made out of concrete. It'll work. It might not be as effective as a laser designed to do that, but it'd be like in the real world where it would work. Nothing's being faked. It's great. And it's like, even with the way they're doing the AI, and they've got the Tori Zerovic talks about all the time, and people go nuts for it. The quanta system going on behind the scenes, how it spawns AI, how they're not actually being physicalized and all that stuff, but they're still going about doing their work behind the scenes, and it's only when a player would stumble across an NPC that it goes, right, this NPC's there, that's the person he stumbles across. It's a great system. It makes it feel alive to us, the players. Everything will be as though everything is 100% alive, but it's kind of like it's also sort of not physicalized behind the scenes. It's only when a player's actually there, able to reach out and touch it, will it be physicalized. And that takes time. I see this all taking a very long time. That is why the game's taken so long. People call it feature creep, people call it whatever you like, and I can understand the anger, and I can understand the annoyance over all of this. If this is not what you wanted, if you just wanted something simpler, but in my opinion, we're getting something better. But it is going to take a lot more time. This is the kind of thing where you could spend days in this and forget you're even like a Second Life. There was a game called Second Life that tried to do something similar years and years ago, but nowhere near as in depth as this. And I never looked into it. I just remember hearing of it, and it is literally, this is like a real Second Life in this sort of sci-fi setting. And I don't want them ever to stop working on it. I want it to be the game's released for 20 years, and whatever the post-release content looks like, either if they do it in big expansions or if they drip feed us every so often. I had no idea what that's going to look like. No one has any idea what that's going to look like. I bet you even Chris Roberts himself is kind of like, that's something we'll deal with at a later date. We're not 100% sure what that's going to look like. I doubt he doesn't have much plans. He's probably like, yeah, we may do expansions, we may drip feed. He's probably exactly like that as well. Like, it's something for us to decide at a later date. I bet you that's even his thoughts. So even he couldn't tell you what their plan is at this time. But I want that to continue for as long as possible. I want to be in my old age and still seeing the next Star Citizen update and getting excited about it. I don't want that to ever stop. So that's sort of, yeah, we're talking about when. I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. Now I want to get back to a point. What points was I want to get back to? See you in a second. So yeah, well, trying to get back to more what this video is about. When do I expect the game to be released? Delay? I expect we'll see Squadron 42 Part 1, just Part 1 of 42, either late next year or the year after. That would be me just guesstimating, giving us a rough guess. A lot of the higher-ups have went from being in America to being in Britain to try and push Squadron 42 Part 1 out the door. They're sort of starting to gear up. They've been saying for at least a year now that a lot of the teams, such as the feature teams, a lot of the feature teams are moving from the PU Star Citizen to 42 to get 42 finished and out the door. Once we get Part 1 of Squadron 42, the second and third part should come faster, a lot faster, because Part 2 and Part 3 will be like almost feature complete. I doubt there's going to be a lot of new additions feature wise to Part 2 and Part 3. It's just basically building the levels, building the and by feature I mean like mechanics, gameplay mechanics. I shouldn't say feature because that's slightly different, but mechanics wise it's going to be basically finished, and they're just needing to then continue the storyline basically. So this should be a lot faster to make Part 2 and Part 3, and a lot of the mechanics sort of people, techs and game developers that work on the mechanics type of stuff, it can then go back to the main Star the main Star Citizen game. There we go. Getting tongue tied and stuck then. So that should speed things up a wee bit, but I still don't expect to see Star Citizen a 1.0 for, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 10 years, as I said earlier. I'm not expecting it anytime soon. I'm excited to continue on this journey and to continue this ride, and I can't wait to see all the new features and all that as they slowly evolve, and I'm enjoying being part of it. It's one of the reasons I like this project. I like seeing it grow. I enjoy taking part in it and seeing every little iteration. So when they go, right, this is our direction for mining, they try it and they're like, yeah, that doesn't work. we're going to try this instead. Like, for example, when they did the new flight model, which they reverted back, and people called it the hover mode type stuff, and your planes flew like your ships flew like helicopters in atmosphere. I hated it. That was when I joined Star Citizen, and I really struggled flying in atmosphere. I was learning how to fly my ship, and I had that on top. I really did not like it. And most people didn't like it from what I've seen. There was a few people that said it was quite good, it made it feel realistic, but they were used to the flying mechanics beforehand, and then they instantly were told that it was basically, you're flying a helicopter. Don't think you're flying a ship, think you're flying a helicopter. And they were able to work it and get it at that, but I was trying to learn my ship, I really struggled, and most people had the same sort of experience as me. And they were like, yeah, this sucks, we're going to try something different for atmospheric flight. I'm glad I got to experience that though. And it's little bits like that I really enjoy. They thought they had atmospheric flight like this is going to be brilliant. Could you imagine if the game released like that? That's the kind of thing where internally they're like, yeah, this looks good, everyone's well aware of how to fly, we all know, we can all do it, and it's good, we like it, it's realistic. Then they release it to the general public, and we don't know what we're getting into. We don't have as much information as they do, and it's more complicated for us. We don't have as much experience with the game in general, and we're kind of like, what does button do? And yeah, it wasn't good for a sort of new user experience kind of thing, and that's what really killed that sort of flight model. And I'm really glad I got to experience it, as I said, because I'm enjoying seeing every iteration. I'm enjoying seeing where they're going wrong, and it is great that they're getting this chance for it to be experienced by the general public, because then, as I said, with that flight model, they thought it was good. When they released it, oh, general public don't like it. Yeah, we can refine that and get it to something that is good. So yeah, when the other things we see, I see often is like, when are they going to stop making ships, releasing ships? They're just doing that to make money, and they can take the people that are making the ships and then finish the game. That's one of the main complaints I see about Star Citizen all the time. Is like, one, the people that are making the ships, yes, they are developers, but they're artists, they're creative people. They're not like technicians or like engineers or programmers. Like, they can't go from making ships to making features. They are both developers, but they're completely different skill sets. That is like taking, the way I often describe it is, if you're at a school and you've got a maths teacher and a music teacher. One's a creative and one's quite technical sort of job. And the maths teacher's off sick, but the PE teacher has some free time. You can't just think of the PE teacher, the music teacher has some free time. You can't just take the music teacher and say, go teach the maths. Even if the music teacher is really good at maths, it's not their specialisation. It's not what they've based their career off. It's not their desired work skill set. It's not what they've refined. It's not what they practice daily. It is not good. So what would they do in this situation? Oh, we don't need that music teacher. We fire them and get a new maths teacher. That is what they'd be doing, and that would suck. I don't want them to lay off all the shit people just so they can hire more programmers to make the features and the gameplay loops. That would suck. And also, there comes a point where just shoving more people into it isn't going to help. If you have one kitchen, which is the one feature in this case, and you have 2 cooks in there, that might speed up the process. They might be able to do it more at a refined state instead of having the one, and it might be easier for them. They might be more relaxed. But then you add a third, and it's gonna it might save you shave a couple of seconds here, save another couple of seconds there. But it's not really, you're not really getting the use out of the third person. And then you add a fourth, and you're starting to slow them down. They're just getting in the way. And add a fifth, you'd be better off with one at this point. They're just going to start treading on each other's toes if you just start cramming more programmers and stuff into making the same features, and it's yeah. And you can't have them work on different features because a lot of the features are reliant on features before, so it's kind of like they're building a tree and they've got to build the basic bit in the middle first and then they can branch out. They can't start working on these branches when they don't have the base trunk, so they can't exactly just throw them into different areas either. So completely all pointless, stupid, leave them the way they're doing it. They're having the people on the ships and having the people on the thing, that's all stupid in my opinion, trying to get them all onto the features and stuff. And also, I love the ships. People say, oh, there's enough ships in the game. No, there's not. There's nowhere near enough ships. I want, as we were talking about earlier, I want this game to be as in-depth as real life. I don't want to go, right, I want to branch into a different career. Now, I've been doing lots of mining, but what I've not been doing is, say, maybe a lot of information gathering, like scouting, exploring. So I want to get into entry-level exploring, gathering information, that kind of stuff. Let's take a look at the starships in that area. Oh, there's one. Okay, I'll just grab that one. I want to go there and there to be 5. And I want, out of those 5, I want 1 to be insanely expensive, but like peak pinnacle kind of thing. So it is the best at most things, but it's extremely diminishing returns. It costs like 2-3 times the amount of the others for a very minuscule benefit over the others kind of thing. Then I want 3 to be the sort of middle ground, where 1's really good at this sort of, like, and they're all roughly the same in quality, but they all sort of branch slightly different. So maybe 1's really fast, and then another one's got better range on its scanners, and then the third one, so there's all sort of side grades where they go slightly different directions. Then I want 1 that is utter trash but insanely cheap. I want there to be a variety, as I said. I want it to be a choice. And I don't want it all to be 100% balanced. Everything is the same. It's just basically a reskin. I want it to feel different. I want it to feel like it is an actual choice, not just a skin. As I said, I want at least 5 ships for that starter, like, exploration gameplay. And I'm like, which one do I want? Which one speaks the most to me as a player? And I want that to be the same for everything, and I want that to be at every grade too. I want there to be 5 step-ups from those starships. I want there to be 5 large. I want there to be 5 capital, just for that exploration, at least. I want it to feel alive, where every manufacturer is trying to get their finger in that pie, so that they can have a wee bit of that money. I want the big manufacturers, especially ones like RSI, to have his fingers in as many pies as possible. And they want to try and get a wee bit of every market. Then I want manufacturers like MSI to have their sort of industrial niche really sort of like cornered. I want them to have an industrial ship at every size and every different type of like profession, because that's their thing. They want everything there, whereas RSI maybe have like a few dotted around. I want there to be lots and lots of ships. I want there to be lots of variety. Like when people were really complaining about the, what was it, the one of the newer MSI ships. What was it? Not the Expanse. That's the refinery one. Oh, it's got the mining laser. It's large. It's an explorer. Well, it's really large. It's capital size. I can't remember it off the top. Odyssey. I think that's it. The Odyssey. The MSI Odyssey. And people really complain about it because they said it really treads on the Carrack's toes. And then there was some people saying, oh, why would you ever take it when you could have a Carrack? And there was some people saying, why would you ever take a Carrack when you could have this? And there's like which one's superior to the other, and there was a lot of debate. And some people were like the Carrack, some people were like the Odyssey. Same as always. But that's good in my opinion. The fact that that was a thing was really good in my opinion, because I want to see more of that. I want the ships to be able to tread on each other's toes. Not yet though. I don't think we're quite there. I want there to be a ship for every role first. Then I want lots of ships that tread on each other's toes. I think we need to fill out and complete the roster first, and then really sort of branch out and get those ships on every other toes. So why am I rambling on about all this? That's our sort of when the ships. The other half of when the ships that we haven't really talked about yet is when will this ship be released? When will that ship be released? That's something that's talked about all the time. And one of the things I see people not talk about a lot is there's a lot of gibboning. Give this ship, give that ship, I want that ship, I want this ship. And one of the things I do see people say is you want your ship to be done a wee bit later, but you also want it to be done now. Because you want to get your hands on it now, you get to play with it now. But the later it's done, the better quality it's going to be done, because you can see with every ship they bring out, they're really pushing the envelope. Like the Mercury Star Runner was a big leap forward, in my opinion, in many ways. With its stuff like the panels on the doors, you could do a lot more with them. Like the lights, the features on that ship, and that became the new standard. And then they're having to go back slowly and add those sort of features to all the old ships. Look at the Gladius, for example, as well, as another good one. It is the only ship that is... I think they've actually got 2 or 3 now that are at gold standard, but the Gladius is the only one. When the gold standard changes, the Gladius will always get it straight away, because that is the main ship for Squadron 42. That is their sort of gold standard test bed ship when it comes to the small little fighters. And it's a good ship to have right now for that simple reason that you'll always get to test out the gold standard and see what CIG currently thinks a finished ship will be like. But as I said, they're constantly learning. They're going like, oh, when they're making this ship, they're like, oh, that's brilliant. Now that's going to have to be the new gold standard, and every other ship they have to go back and add that wee thing to. As I said, the Gladius is always the first to get it. So there is a wee bit of a when you want it to be later and now. So for the ships, and I do understand both ways there. For me personally, I probably would want ships I really like sooner. Like, I'd really like the Endeavour soon, but I don't think we're getting that until the game is actually released, maybe even after that. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing's still coming, because that thing is going to be a beast for them to make. When? Any other whens I really feel like we should talk about? Gibboning. When's this going to be released? When's that going to be released? I'm just happy waiting. When it's ready when it's ready. With everything in this game, it's ready when it's ready. I'm happy with that. I know there's a lot of people that are really upset over the pace that it's taken to build this game. When you take a look at the scale and size of this game, I think it makes sense why it's taken so long. I think it's understandable. I think it's to be expected. I don't like comparing these two games because people always take it the wrong way. But let's talk about Star Citizen, Cyberpunk for a second. Cyberpunk was in development nearly as long as Star Citizen has been. Nearly as long. I think Cyberpunk was slightly after, and then obviously it's out now. Has been for around a year now, I think. It must be getting close to a year. Yes. So Cyberpunk had an insanely long development as well. And then just look at how small a game Cyberpunk is compared to Star Citizen. Just one little city with a wee bit of depth, a wee bit of that, and a lot of systems that sort of fake the like realistic nature that Star Citizen's going to have realistically. And also you've got to add on top the CD Projekt Red didn't have to add anywhere near as much to their company. Like CIG was started from scratch. They're still hiring. They've still not met like enough people to make the game. They're still hiring. So that's another way. This has been sort of like a slow ramp up, and I think things are really getting traction now. And I expect the traction to be really great over the next few years, especially if we get Pyro, which I wouldn't be. That's another big win. I'd probably expect Pyro to be some point next year. I think it's possible this year, not probable this year. I think it's probably going to be next year, potentially even the year after that we get Pyro, especially if I'm focusing on 42. But I lost track. Yes, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a tiny game with only like one, you could argue like one or two Not proficiencies, but basically jobs? What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I can't remember. I said it earlier. I used the word earlier, but it's gone from the top of my head at the moment. Professions! You could argue like Cyberpunk is like Star Citizen just in one city with like 2 professions instead of having like 80, and not much else to do. It's very, very small compared to Star Citizen's much grander scale. It's kind of like a small slice of what Grand Star Citizen's trying to be, and that game's been almost in the same, almost had as much development time as Star Citizen without the company being ramped up, without all the extra of having to do the Kickstarter first. I don't think Cyberpunk had a Kickstarter. So yeah.
Dreams are
When you look at Cyberpunk and just think, that's how long that took. Times that by 10, and that's how long Star Citizen's going to take. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think for what we're getting and how much I enjoy the journey, I definitely want to continue to enjoy this journey. I definitely want to see it go, and I hope it keeps on getting the funding, because things are looking great now, but in 10 years' time, who knows, maybe most people have lost interest and this funding stops, and so the game finally comes to a hold. Though I'd be really sad, I do see that being as a potential death of the game. I don't think that'll happen, but I do see it as being a potential, and if money is not a problem, I do see it as being just a matter of time until we have something truly breathtaking on our hands, and I am more than happy to wait and sit and just enjoy the journey. And who knows, maybe the memes will be right. I'll be dead and the game's finally getting released. I'd have still enjoyed the journey all the way to the point I die, and that's the important thing for me. So, that was us talking about when and my thoughts and my feelings. If you have any opinions, let me know down below. Just don't spread hate. I understand being upset over the project because it's not the vision that you wanted anymore, and it's not what you thought it was. You invested and like got yourself Starship or something, and then you thought you were going to have a product within a couple of years that was finished. I can understand being upset over that, but in my opinion, it's well worth sacrificing that when we've got so many other games that we can have as a finished product, like Cyberpunk now, like after not its initial release was Cyberpunk now, and other games like No Man's Sky now, and the X series. We've got so many other games that have different sort of aspects of Star Citizen that we could enjoy now. But we also now have this thing that's much bigger, much greater. I think that's a great trade, in my opinion. I think it's well worth losing just another game that's a bit like X, a bit like Cyberpunk, and losing that one game to get something much bigger, even if it takes a lot longer, is well worth it, in my opinion. And I've said it like 400 times, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. Hope you've all enjoyed this. I'll see you all next time. Bye. Bye.